This is the last smoke of the day, and I gotta burn home. So there we go, one more. So I got a good hike. My mom's home, makes me feel safe. I'm gonna do a quick little, like I have a sort of range of drinks this time of day that I like to munch on, and so I've got my glue, I've got my coffee, I've got food. It's been the warmest day, so that's been good. I mean, that's just worth celebrating, right? I mean, that's like celebrating the sun. Even as I say that, there's a thing on my screen that's basically a little circle with a lock on it, and I lock it all the time because it lowers the screen output a little bit. And so it's basically like a picture of the sun with a lock on it. Isn't that fucking funny? And so you can kind of get, it's not necessarily the most practical result of my life. You get this fine awareness of your environment when you're stoned as well, but also nothing against like getting some air. I see that circle every day. If you looked at my life and said, oh, you're a druid, right? And you're really concerned with symbols and all the relations they have with our nervous system to the level of the mind where abstract concepts of every kind, whether they apply to a form of science or knowledge or medicine or just a conglomeration of what humans happen to think about the really powerful, knowledgeable people and the knowledge they use to do this looks to you. In other words, the entire nervous system of man comprehended in your own nervous system, a way that you're allowed to talk about. Whoa. And it's like, oh, there's a circle with a lock on it, dude. Like, you didn't fucking notice that. And so that's called humbling. Humbling thing. It's like, you all humbled now, bitch. Okay, let's go. Oh, I want to get some water. See, I had that thought in my mind. And you could be like, dude, when you're stoned, you could never do a job because, like, you're in such a deeply meticulous way. Interrupted by basically anything of the millions of minutiae, scintillating as they are, that make it work. For hours falling like light through the stained glass windows of your ancient churches. And the labor of people just like you and me. Churches whose commands of your labor, your flesh and blood, and your mind live like those churches that you have built, whose stones are made of the bones of your people. The glass is made out of shadows frozen at Hiroshima, and the paralysis of your mind, that many types of lights may be shone through it, and effects in your blood and in your mind that remain quite useful to the people who know how to play with the light, and they know how to freeze your blood, and they know how to build stones out of your heritage. They are the masons of man. They are the royal witches of the world. And their exploits are as though legendary, as the Knights of the Round Table, the Crusaders, the Malta, the Scottish, the Franks, the Dirds, the Birds, and the Kurds. The many ranks of their legendary personas. You dive in and dive in because you get into human myth and anthropology, you've now found a way to look at it as one constant dirge. That's good for some people and not for you, just like the ecosystem. And it's programmed into you to just live out that dirge, to live out that church, to the mortification of human flesh. I'm so scared I'm a schizophrenic. I think about the thing I saw in the river today and how human symbolism. So it stands like it's definitely got its motifs and its conceits, origin, and nature in a way that I find interesting. And it's fine when I'm not as stoned. I'll talk at home if I'm safe enough to do so, because I think that's the right place to just sit. My mom's going to be. That's really kind of a good time for me to have a holy day, and wherever my mind goes or fears going, just keep bending it to the sounds. My home. Got everything. Got what I need. Let's go. There's somebody there. Hey, hello. And hello. Hmm. Where I met weird people today. I'm the weirdest person today. These people are quite nice. It's a good day. You know, do you have to fear for the well-being of your family to preserve the well-being of your family? And that's that third rune that I got, Kanaz, which is the homeward approach. Which is that I have a little work to do just to make sure I'm bringing the right energy back to my home. So whatever I'm doing, that's kind of my job every day. So you'd say, what are the limitations of your thought? Well, clearly, to stave off being an abusive father one day, that my home, my children want to see me. Hello, it's like, oh, Dad, good to see you. That's what I want. I want to see a little desperation in their faces. Little Johnny's been crying for the last 3. No, I don't want to see that. But like, hey, we had fun. I want to tell you all about it. Well, Daddy's pretty tired. So what does Daddy say? The first 2 hours are his hour of power, so that he can come back from the dead, where he took a shower in molten hot bullshit that comes from the Vatican's, underground basement where experiments on children who don't listen to their father. Oh, okay, Daddy. I'm getting a little on a testicle zinging. It's okay. It's threatened. Yesterday was more. It's like, and it's funny how my anxiety goes up. So, it's some of it is my sister coming to me. It's like, I'm a little scared, I think. I try not to, but it's like, I've lived days and days and years with my mom, and where I live now, where for whatever reason, it makes sense to my sister, even to you, I feel threatened. And if I feel threatened, that I'm either crazy or something is threatening me, right? And this has been part of my life, domestically, sparing precious few dear months or years or days, just about everywhere I've lived on earth since I've been a child. So, I could understand when my sister doesn't feel safe, given the similar provenance, and I can't be my mother's psychiatrist. You're a parent if they're kind of an alcoholic, you live with them, or you're trying to get to know them and live with them, you're accommodating certain things. You're just trying to keep your own relationship healthy, let alone my mom never wants to talk to me in a way to help her relationship with my sister. I offer her suggestions. I've almost you might say earned it over the years, but I don't think she really certain things. Or maybe she does. I don't know. Maybe it's not meant to. Maybe it's not something to look to her. But that you want to help. And I try to sort of show her it's okay to acknowledge that there's a problem. There are reasons that we acknowledge that there is a problem, but everyone has to be able to feel respected and safe. And my sister comes around, for all her education and teaching children and stuff. She doesn't know, as an animal, how to quiet down her mind enough to kind of just be. My mom and I, for instance, are much more passive beings. No one's completely passive, but my sister, if she wanted to visit, if she wanted to just make good and have a place in my life, or my older brother, they have to quiet down a little bit of the rage or the fear or the learned kind of ways of feeling that they know better than me and my mom how they should feel. And to look at how they've behaved, look at how they've spoken to me, look at what effect they've had in my life. Look at, if they feel threatened, that's fine. I can, thank you very much. That was really respectful. The more nice people I meet, the more it throws a certain light upon my home. But the most threatening thing to me today is not the people outside my home, it's the person waiting for me to go. And it's been enough that statistically, by the numbers, the feeling of somewhat threatened testicles
is somewhat related to the type of relationship my mom has with my sister. In so much as it has any bearing upon me, it's not healthy. And I've addressed this, I've had occasion to open court to hundreds of times. It separated my mother and I for 6 or 7 years, critical to my recovery from abuses from my sister. And what I think of now is, now that I know more about it, abuses to my relationship with my mother than to my mother. And my sister makes extraordinary demands, and has, upon her mother, upon her father, upon me, and respectively other members of the family. Because she can't settle down. She can't just be. She just can't be quiet, passive, dulcet. She can't, kind of make up for years and years and years where she hasn't learned to take enough account to how uncomfortable she's making someone else feel. Because if we can't do that, we're never going to be able to have a relationship with her. It's just, right? You, my sister, might want other people to make her feel the way she wants to feel, to relent, to assent, and various concerns, to quiet their voices, to just get over it, or this, that, the other, to make her feel more comfortable. But she doesn't want to do anything herself. She is untouched by any such necessity, almost more because of the type of effect she's had on people and why she does that. It's for survival purposes. And people, psychotics within families, because I think mental illnesses are a part of family dynamics, so you can link them. As much as we talk about psychopathy in the world, schizophrenia in the world, or the diseases of masses of people, they're related to diseases in our own families. Which could, if you want to say, in terms of some people, experts, at worst, people who don't play the right roles. Expectations are not clearly defined. The ones that have been concocted and chosen for you don't allow everybody to win. It's a broken system. It's no coincidence that on a day when my sister's visiting, the only emotional tone that my mom has struck with me about the defining order of the day is that my sister is afraid to come here and to see her. I think in some sense may or may not comprehend the fear of seeing me. And my mom really has had to live when I've been near her and when my sister is around. My sister puts her in the middle between her and me. My sister puts my mom in the middle. She puts her in a very awkward position. Because my sister is never just dealing with my mom. Slips into, in her very aggressive way of being, attempting to basically get my to think a certain way about me. A man, a person, a family member in her life, whose relationship with my mom, my sister knows nothing about. And as though a stranger to our lives, to my life, a stranger to my home, someone who has no critical, competent interest in my mother's well-being or mine, and has never proved to me that she does. And as an honest, upstanding man, I could not tell you, and I would not tell a court of law, that I thought my sister was consistently harmless to my mother or me or my home, or indeed any home I've ever lived in. And that's not the kind of thing you want to think. And that's not the kind of thing you want to think you're going to have to tell a court one day because something happened. But most likely, and you don't want this to happen, but at least there's something to that if certain control is placed in my power, inasmuch as a kind of droll or deadly fate has been placed like a specter in my life as a family scapegoat, that in deference to having this to come into some awful conflict, at least the more likely thing, if I'm right, is that I might end up sustaining the greatest possible injury from anything my mother and sister get about doing to preserve her or their survival in the world. In whatever language they speak, that generally tends to inhibit my mother's interests in maintaining the type of relationship we commonly enjoy. and it tends to shake and deeply threaten our relationship. And we come back from it here, there, and the other. And my mom comes back from a different place that her mind goes when she's talking to my sister. You see how complicated that is. And I've lived with that and observed it. And for weeks and months and years at a time, it became all I could talk about because I was suffering so much from this type of dynamic. I say type because my mom has formed other relationships with other unscrupulous women that have brought me to great harm. Okay. Now, at least, due to, I think, some considerable effort and pain on my part, and as much as I have been likely or have, and I'm likely still to sustain certain injury from these dynamics, the good side, if you will, is that I might have some control over that. If I do this, if I walk this way and live this way, and that's been my faith also, and it could be wrong, right? And that's Kenaz, that's the rune I'm coming home with. Because one of the greatest challenges I face is probably confidence in myself and what I'm trying to accomplish. Or at least if you were to draw some purpose at all into these videos and in turn my life, it would be, there's some laudable purpose to it all. That I have helped to relieve my mom of her alcoholism, and that I have days, holy as they are, to bring some considerable soundness to my home, to offer as a sacrifice, a tribute, or something that might be appreciated, like you would a fine meal, if you're going to dine on it, and thank the person who's provided you their meat, their happy feelings, their worthy occupation. So I might say if your children go out playing all day, any worthy occupations outside in their imaginations and whatnot, and they're safe and they're physically adapted because you made sure they were, you taught them that to do that for themselves, and they come home and you don't abuse them for being happy. You just like you come home from your job and they say, oh, would you want to rest from your occupations? Right? But now that you're home, you have to kind of cease from your occupations. You can't behave in here the way you're behaving there. That's what kind of brings the outside world and the inside into its proper relationship dynamic. You go out and you take attitudes. You have vivid experiences. And you bring home a worthy range of occupations that are natural to your flesh and blood as breathing. Right? And try not to get killed by bear. These are all worthy occupations. And find it within yourself, my child, among your worthy occupations, to stumble upon an emotion or something that catches in your throat that you would all think that your father would like to hear. And do not restrain yourself from telling him, and telling yourself, or telling the sun, and telling the air, because what you tell the air about me, my son, my child, shall never offend. And what you tell the quiet, the darkness of your mind, in any hour, more joyful, agonizing or sad as it may be, will never offend me, not even if it's about me, not even me, or the world I've given you to. Never and in no way, shape, or form will you curse me, my son, but bless me infinitely when you are honest. Every place your mind may dwell, that your voice may dwell, and you would honor me, my son. My joy could come from no other law, no other honor. Your mother's own beating heart would ne'er have any blood flowing through it to begin with, if you did not observe the law of her voice. And keep your own mother and father long and sound upon this earth. We love you, my child. That is a family bond. That's better than any religion in the world. My balls even feel better. Man, I look like a dip. I think I'm just having a genital component to my daily education. Maybe my balls are getting bigger. Maybe it's growth pains. You're crazy when you feel growing pains in your balls. It's like, that's not growing pains. But you don't want things happening to your balls that you don't want happening to your balls. And if you feel your balls have a problem, all of a sudden the problem starts to grow a little bit. You put some tea tree on it, and you think about what's going on in your home as a man. And I've lived many days and gotten very comfortable. I try to advance my safety and comfort, much as I may have to go to great lengths to imagine it to be. And so much as it's supposed to be good to be positive, I work very hard to get to that place. And if at all, if ever, because as impractical as this may seem, I'm a very practical person. If I don't feel safe, I'm probably not. And it takes time. Even if I were made safe today, and if peace were declared in all the earth, and we were all safe from all violence, how many days would it take to feel really safe? And they'd have like a public tally, like, hi, I'm John, and it took me 30,000 days to stop having panic attacks. Okay, John, that's a new high, but we'll say that's right in the middle of what it's going to be, because scientists predict that there's going to be more and more cases of panic attacks for longer days. And we're going to have to spread out and let people kind of freak out from time to time, you know? So that's practical, right? So if you're achieving any peace in your life, you're probably going to have to let off some shock along the way, because peace is the restoration from shock. That's basically what it is. So when people come together and say, hey, we're having a great time worshiping the Lord and bringing peace to the world, I kind of wonder if they're delusional. I want to hear things like from the primal scream, like, oh, I had to go in a rubber room for 3 days, screaming like a baby, because my mother and father were in a car accident when I was 6 years old, or my mother was a chronic heroin user or something. You know, Jesus Christ. Not that you have to do that, but it just shows that, in fact, it may not be good for you, but growing the brain is always going to be restoring it to some degree as a restorative function, if from the winter that I just came through. And more to be stuffed into winter than we should like. Winter presupposes a capacity of the brain to extend to its living conditions and versatility that would be commensurate with snow fox living through an ice age. So think about that. This way for a second.